Thank you, musicians. Nice to have you back, Julie. Thank you. And you know how Kit and I have kind of this unspoken communication in the way everything comes together for our service. So today, I don't know why I picked these simple black Mary Janes. But I think it's so that Kit could shine without competition whatsoever. Come here and stand by me a minute. Come here. You got to have another look at these. Yeah, stand up if you didn't see them. This is so good. You know, some churches, they do hats, but here we do shoes. We're going to do something a little bit different today. This, I think, is going to be kind of fun. I've never done this before in a service at all, but this is Black History Month, and I wanted to change things up just a little bit. We got these little booklets called Gems of Wisdom from Black Leaders of New Thought. So there are religious science and unity ministers in this booklet, and it's available in the bookstore if you'd like a copy. But I want to read you a little bit here from Reverend Charlene Manuel about a beautiful soul that I never had the opportunity to meet in my early days in Unity before she retired. Reverend Charlene says, Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon arrived in a limousine. She walked into the Church of Today in Warren, Michigan, looking proud, self-assured, elegant, and confident. At that time, the Church of Today in Warren, Michigan was pretty much all white. She was to be our guest speaker that Sunday, and I thought, whoever this lady is, she must have an awesome message. Nothing prepared me for the soul-stirring, uplifting, mind-expanding message she delivered with authority. I recognized authority. On that day, I heard it, I saw it, I felt it. Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon spoke as one having authority. She was easy to listen to. Her message was clear, relatable, and down to earth. She seemed to be speaking especially to me and delivered the words that grabbed my attention. It works if you work it. Some of you who are in 12-step programs are very familiar with those words. I had heard Johnnie Colemon's story about breaking the barrier of segregation at Unity Village in the 1950s. She was the first African-American student to be allowed to live on Unity grounds, but only after she threatened to leave the ministerial program. Ordained by Unity, she went on to success and acclaim, establishing Christ Universal Temple in Chicago in 1956, then creating a new organization within New Thought called the Universal Foundation for Better Living, UFBL, in 1974. Working with Reverend Mary Tumpkin in Miami, Florida. Sorry, I got glasses, so I don't have an excuse. Working with Reverend Mary Tumpkin in Miami, Florida, she also created the Johnnie Colemon Theological Seminary for UFBL. So I would like for you to see a little bit about Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon. If we could bring the lights down just a little bit. Can we bring the lights down? Thank you.
the world might hear and feel and see what you want to do through me as your channel. Oh Lord, blot out from every member, every friend of Christ Universal Temple and Christ Universal Complex. Blot out all of this nothingness that we have allowed to stand in our way, so that the world, so that we can be a part of helping this city to become what God intended for it to be. Blot out hate. Blot out criticism and condemnation. Blot out everything that's not like you, God. Do it and do it now. Blot it out. The one whom you love is safe, because there is no spot where God is not.
Can I say S without saying source? To build a prosperity consciousness, you must know that God is the source of your supply.
It works if you work it.
Everything that you have in your life, world, and affairs, it could not get there if there had not been a picture just like whatever it is you have brought forth. Change the image if you don't like what you're doing. That's where it is. Imagination, get it straight, is an attribute of God. It is the formative power of thought. It is the molding power of the mind. It is that which gives shape, tone, and color to thinking. Every word, every combination of words, every word, every combination of words, every word, every combination of words has in back of them an image. Am I getting through to you? An image. You have made a picture, or it would not be in your life. Do you want a new life? Do you want a healthy body? Do you want a pocket full of money? Whatever you desire, you can have it when you visualize it. Have you ever heard the word visualization before? Do you know how to visualize? It's just another word to say, see whatever it is you want. Visualization means mentally seeing the things that you want to have in your life, world, and affairs.
The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is.
Okay. If it weren't for people like Johnnie Colemon, there are many people who would have never known about unity. They would have never known about these principles. Reverend Johnnie brought the message to the African American community in a way differently than anybody else had. And because of her and her inspiration, the Urban Ministerial School in Detroit was built so that students who wanted to become unity ministers and licensed unity teachers had a place to go where they could have their jobs and support their families and become ministerial students. She has inspired countless people. She's inspired me. And I hope today she inspired you. I hope hearing the words of truth spoken with a different intonation, with a different kind of power, moved you? Did you love that preaching? I mean, it's amazing what she did. And, you know, Unity has always been very open, and all of New Thought really has been open to women as teachers, to women as ministers, and for it to be as widespread, to have African American women ministers in New Thought is extraordinary. So I have had people, even in our enlightened times, say to me after a wedding or a funeral, you know, preacher, you did a good job for a woman. And I said, why, thank you, bless your heart. But it's because we can stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us, no matter what our gender, no matter what our spiritual practice is. We have people that we stand on the shoulders of that paved the way for us to get there. And I think it's important that we acknowledge and honor those people. And I wanted to honor Dr. Johnnie Colemon today for everything that she brought. And let me tell you, I never went to the temple in Chicago, but I heard that when she came out on stage, it was a production. I mean, it was like the angels started singing and the heavens parted and Johnnie Colemon appeared. And she spoke like that. And she moved people and she made them understand truths that were new. And you know, we start out in New Thought working with things, you know, things we want to see in our life, like she said. But remember that that's not just material things. We talked about this Wednesday night that we're kind of past the manifesting parking spaces part. You know, like God doesn't care where we park. Spirit, as a matter of fact, we heard a great story Wednesday night about somebody not getting their regular parking place. You know how we do? It's kind of like that place you want to sit when you're in church. Every single Sunday, without fail. And so the parking space wasn't available and meant a little bit of a different walk. And because of that little bit of different walk to the store, that person had an encounter with a woman who needed to know kindness and truth that day. Now, the thing that's different is that we could ignore those things. We could choose to walk past people that are in distress or suffering. We could choose not to assist someone, or at least to make the offer to assist someone. We could do that. We could walk on by. But if we're going to do what Reverend Johnnie said so beautifully, it works if you work it, then we're going to work it. And it means practicing that which is already present for you, your divine spirit, the divine spirit that lives within you. Because if spiritual principles are great, you write them down, you read about them, you hear people say them, and they're really, really good words that mean absolutely nothing if you don't do something with them. And that means even when you don't feel like it. I was listening to NPR on the way in today, and they quoted Alan Watts. Alan Watts? Yes. He said that the best thing to do to clear muddy water is to leave it alone. So there are times when our spiritual practice is to take a muddy situation and sit in patience with it. In patience, not impatient. Sit in patience with it as we watch the truth unfold, as we look for that spiritual principle, that higher thing that makes sense to us. Because, boy, when we're uncomfortable, we try to think ourselves out of that tough spot so hard. How successful has that been for you so far? To try to think yourself out of a situation. It requires us to go a little bit deeper. It requires us to live with the question. It requires us to get on our knees and say, I don't know how to do this. It requires us to call upon the presence of God, which is already providing everything that we need right now to show us what our next step is. And notice that I'm not saying show us what the next 17 steps are. Not, God, show me the end of this. Show me the next step, and I will walk in faith into that next step. And if you're still in the habit of asking for God to give you a sign, you'll get them. Just like, praying for patience gives you a lot of opportunities to have impatience just kind of accidentally pop up in your life. So, as you hear Dr. Coleman talking about, a pocket full of $100 bills, she's talking about material abundance, but she's also talking about the abundance of a spiritual life, the abundance of shaping ourselves and letting ourselves be transmuted by the truth, so that we recognize over and over and over again our divine nature, the divine gifts that are already present in us. And all we're doing is just getting all the other stuff out of the way so that we can do what is ours to do. So, I think I said this a couple of Sundays ago. If Unity is your place to come on Sunday and get your little boost, but then you go away the rest of the week and talk badly about your neighbors, you're missing the point. I don't think any of y'all do that. But I think we've been in this spot before, Chip. Yeah. You get to, because you're human, you get to indulge yourself in fear for this long. You get to indulge yourself in self-pity for this long, that long. You get to indulge yourself in stinking thinking for a short period of time, and then it's time to move on to the truth that you know. I got to tell you, sorry, I think the air conditioner's getting me here. If you haven't picked up one of our Unity books in the bookstore, and they're easy. Pick up and read a chapter. You don't have to start at the beginning and read all the way through. Let it be a book that you open and you see what it says to you that day. Read one paragraph, read one page, and see how it begins to shift your thinking. Those of you that subscribe to the Daily Word or the Science of Mind magazine, read that one page to shift yourself for the day. We say this over and over and over again, but the slogan of "it works if you work it" requires that you absolutely acknowledge that you have self-determination and choice in your life about how you will live it. Now, a lot of places would say, oh, no, that's putting way too much power in the hands of the individual. Who else is going to run our lives? Who else is going to make those decisions? Who else is going to seek wisdom in the way we make our decisions? We don't have anybody out there telling us what we should do all the time. If you do, make them go away. You don't want somebody telling you what to do all the time. You get to do that. Is it an awesome responsibility? Yeah. Is it a scary responsibility? Sometimes. Is it an absolute necessity? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. For us to live in oneness with our Creator as much as we can, as often as we can, 24 hours a day. Give your sleep and your dreams over to God. Because I know some of you out there traveling around the world doing good things for people while you're sleeping. You know who you are. And so those principles that I talked about last month, the things we talked about last month in our Wednesday night class, the things Kit is talking about last Sunday and in her Wednesday night class this month on the Discovering the Truths in the Science of Mind book. All those things are things for us to use, not just philosophize about. Not just say, oh, that's a really good idea. I wonder who's doing that. You can. Okay, I'm going to say it, you should. Only because there's a promise of peace and abundance and harmony with your fellows and better sleep, better health, better acceptance, better all those things. Those of you who did the white stone ceremony at the beginning of the year, all of those attributes that you wrote on your white stones. That. I'll read you some of Dr. Johnnie's words. She had a whole series called It Works If You Work It. I don't think anybody could have walked out of there unscathed. I insist on my members being involved in study classes. Why? Because as long as you sit there in service with your mouth closed, you have nothing to motivate you. She slams doors that might be the door of our excuses not to do something. There's power in the spoken word. Certain words turn on the cells, the organs, the tissues inside of you. I will say it again. This is a do-it-yourself thing. You got to do it for you. The words I speak are for me, not for you. Until you can put down all the churchiness and cuteness and get involved, you will not get any results. This stuff, if you work it, will work. It will heal your body. It will make your pocketbooks get fat with a whole lot of $100 bills. It is the kind of stuff that will bring you peace of mind, harmony in your home and in your world, the kind of stuff that will get stirred up inside of you and radiate to all with whom you contact. It works if you work it. So, on the first Sunday of every month this year, we're allowing we've invited some of our people that are involved with different organizations in the community to come and speak to you about their volunteer work, about the work that they find valuable that gives life and breath to them. This is an opportunity, if you see something that snags your heart, for you to come and talk to that person and maybe get involved in that community. And some of you are already doing that. So I don't know what your next step is going to be in working it, but there is one. It might look like surrender. It might look like stepping up to something that feels new and uncomfortable. It might look like enriching your daily spiritual practice. It might look like taking care of some things that are standing in the way of your clarity and your union with the divine, whether it's addiction or mental health issues or whatever else is bothering you. You've got something going on with your body, but you're afraid to go to the doctor because you don't want the doctor to say something that might scare you. Does that change the thing in your body? Not at all. So if you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Know that perfect health is yours no matter how it looks. Because perfect health is more than just all these cells working together and never having to use a tissue. Health means living comfortably in our bodies, knowing that they are vessels of God's divine life. Even if they're bringing us pain, then we have that beautiful gift of living through it and into wholeness. Just like that. I know you know, brother. Celebrating Black History Month would be incomplete without remembering Johnnie Colemon for her impact and contributions, not only because of her long list of service and community involvement, not only because she overcame racial and social roadblocks, she also sat on the board of Unity. I have a graduation picture of her in the class of 1958. Lots and lots of white people. One black lady. With all that hope and joy that you saw in those pictures. Not only because of the hundreds of thousands of lives she touched and changed with her bold and dynamic messages, providing clear, practical, inspirational instructions. Not only because she was the first African American president of the Association of Unity Churches. Not only because of all the major accomplishments she demonstrated as an example of a life well lived, but because every person who stays on the Unity ground stands on her shoulders. Her courageous act of love and service left a legacy for all. Every person who aspires to live the message of oneness must embrace the idea of diversity and inclusion, which we who love New Thought teachings must continue to build upon and strive for in service to future generations. Today we talk about diversity and inclusion. Johnnie Colemon set it in motion for the Unity movement and anchored a work that is still under construction. She taught by example that exclusion blocks equal distribution of opportunity for those who bear gifts, talents, and hearts for making the world a better place. Have you ever thought about discrimination as having that effect on the world? And finally, for every person who has wondered how to use the truth taught in New Thought so they can live a life that is high quality and divine, they too stand on the shoulders of the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon. Her words ring true and powerful to this day. It works if you work it. So I would just ask you, would you like to have your body healed? Would you like to have your wallets and pocketbooks, I like that, get fat? Would you like to have peace of mind? Would you like to have harmony in your home and your world? I know there's yeses just abounding out there. Would you like to get stirred up enough that you can radiate to all with whom you come in contact? Yes. I think so. I think you do. I've seen you do it. I see you do it all the time. You inspire me. So take a spiritual principle. Look at the Beatitudes in the book of Matthew, by the way, in the Bible. Look at the Beatitudes. Read the Lord's Prayer as an affirmative statement. Pick up a New Thought book in our bookstore. Get a box of affirmation cards. Do a little journaling. Go talk to your therapist. Come talk to me or Kit. And let us be that community that radiates. We're in a perfect position on top of a hill. We can be a beacon with all these radiating lives, can't we? It works if you work it. So you don't have an excuse. If you're going through something and somebody asks you, have you prayed about it? Well, no, I can figure that out. That's sometimes my default position. No, I don't. I can figure this out. I haven't really prayed on it because I know the answer is just right there. Well, prayer never hurt anybody, did it? And it might just take you a different direction than your own hamster wheel mind can take you. So why don't we take a moment to let these words just kind of percolate down into you, land someplace in your consciousness. And just remember the life of our master teacher, Jesus. He worked it. Every day of his 3-year ministry, he worked it. And you don't have to wander among the crowds speaking words. You can wander among the grocery store, amidst your family, holding the highest vision for this community and for the world. Blessing those who are difficult to bless, for surely blessing them changes us. Will you just reach out a tiny thread of gratitude out into the beyond, wherever the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon is now doing her work beyond this realm? Just a little thread of gratitude for what you learned about her today and for the mighty work she accomplished here on the earth. Will you give thanks for the great legacy of truth teachers that have come down through decades? So that we might be the ongoing beacons of radiating light to the world. Not swayed by the biases and the conditioned habits that we have, but lifting ourselves to that higher place that expresses God. And if you don't know what it looks like, that's fine. For you will be shown. And I have to believe that it is Spirit's great delight to delight us. So that thing in your heart that arose today during that short film and during this message, that thing that arose in your heart, cradle it gently as a budding idea so that your life might improve, be more peaceful, have more healing, experience more abundance, and make a difference in the world. Cradle that nurture it, and then let it come forth. All it takes right now, in this moment, is that silent knowing that you are one with God, now and forever. God has already done everything that needs to be done. And now we go forth to embrace our part. And bring your pilgrim hands together in gratitude, in trust, in faith. And any concerns or worries that you have, open your hands and let them go. And all is well. All is well. And so it is.